Hi there, thank you so much again for joining me on this channel. As always, I'm very grateful for all your previous views, likes, subscriptions and shares. So normally I have some vague idea, admittedly a very vague one, of what I'm going to do each week, and then I suddenly realised on Friday my smart speaker told me it was British Science Week. I thought actually that would be a great thing to do. British Science Week celebrates science, technology, engineering and maths, and as a way of raising awareness of these subjects. So just out of a hunch, a feeling, I thought it would be really great to do something on religion and science. I started putting it together. I realised I hadn't really thought it through, but I kept going on anyway, which admittedly isn't the most scientific approach to doing something, but there we go. Let's be honest, those of you who've been with me for a while will know that what I do tends to be a form of chaos anyway. I threw into Google religion and science and it came up with over 2 billion pages, which is quite a lot. And I suddenly realised I have to wade through an awful lot of information. I realised pretty quickly as well that perhaps the most famous individual regarding religion and science is Galileo, who was a famous astronomer. He also plays a key part in the Queen song Bohemian Rhapsody. Galileo was born in what we now call Italy in the mid-1500s, and his father wanted him to be a doctor, but he gravitated towards mathematics. He had an education in a monastery. It's worth noting at that time that, of course, monasteries were the seat of learning. Places of religion were very closely linked to education. Now, when I was a kid, I had a pair of binoculars and a little astronomy book. I think it was written by Patrick Moore. And the idea was I would go out there and look at the night sky and the moon and so forth. And it really did contribute to my understanding of the world, not to the same levels as, say, Professor Brian Cox or Galileo. But what's interesting is that astronomy is one of the few sciences where amateurs can make a positive contribution, mainly because the sky is so big, you need as many people as possible to be looking at it. Galileo is regarded as the father of modern astronomy. Why? Well, he helped develop and improve the telescope. He discovered the rings on Saturn, moons around Jupiter. He also worked out the phases of Venus. Add into that as well his interest in terms of developing the thermometer and a military compass, and you can see he was a true polymath. One of the things that Galileo's discoveries helped to prove is that the way that the solar system was structured. People had believed, particularly the Roman Catholic Church, that the solar system went round the Earth. It was geocentric. However, his discoveries pointed towards what's known as a heliocentric idea, everything going round the sun. Now, this theory had been put forward by Copernicus beforehand. Galileo refused to back down on this theory. Galileo got in an awful lot of trouble from the Roman Catholic Church. He was accused of being a heretic. A heretic is someone who commits heresy. Heresy is going against the traditional beliefs of that time. He actually went and faced trial in Rome in 1632 and was then placed under house arrest. Effectively, he wasn't allowed to leave. Galileo's books were banned by the Roman Catholic Church, and he was even threatened with torture to give up his beliefs about how the solar system functioned. Galileo lived under house arrest for the rest of his life, slowly going blind but still churning out works regarding mathematics. Galileo died under house arrest, and it wasn't until 1992 where the then Pope Jean Paul II, apologised officially to Galileo. This is Dame Susan Jocelyn Bell Burnell. She was born in Northern Ireland and she made an extraordinary contribution to the world of science. Her interest in astronomy came from her father. He was an architect and designed the Armagh Planetarium, and whilst he was working on it, she was taking along and she was encouraged by the staff to look at books and to explore the solar system further. Whilst working as a radio astronomy graduate at Cambridge University, she helped to discover pulsars. A pulsar is a rapidly rotating neutron star. In 1974, the team who had discovered the pulsars were awarded the Nobel Prize. Dame Susan was not included on that list though. Part of the reason given was because when it comes to giving out the Nobel Prize, students are not always given credit. It's the team leaders, those who are actually heading up that particular scientific project. It has been pointed out, though, that Dame Susan was an integral part of discovering pulsars. Every night she would be checking about 30 meters worth of paper printouts looking for that pulsar signal. She even had to convince and to work hard to show her supervisors that this was not an anomaly but some kind of new space body that had to be investigated. There are still those today in the scientific community who say that she should have been part of that award. It's very rare for students to be given the award, but they would say this was such an important scientific discovery, she is worthy of inclusion. Thinking about religion and science, Dame Susan comes from the Quaker tradition. She says, "I was born into Quakerism. I chose to remain. One of the tenets is that there is something of God, something good in everyone, which is a very positive way to look at people." What really struck me is that beautiful statement about the Quaker faith. And there's something quite extraordinary, isn't there, about how this notion that under Quakerism there is something of God in everybody and there is good in everybody. And as she says, that's a positive way to look at people. And to be honest, whether you are religious or not, trying to see the good in people is a healthy attitude to have. Next is Queen Amina of Zaire, a very famous Muslim leader, ruler, and of course, an engineer. Queen Amina was born into a family, a royal dynasty, and was one of 3 siblings. Queen Amina inherited the throne after the death of her brother, and she set about expanding the kingdom. It's in now what we know as Nigeria that she ruled, and she gradually built out through her extraordinary military skill and secured an empire that made sure it was strong on trade. Queen Amina ruled an area of roughly 500 square miles in what we now know as Nigeria. But she also helped to build up those trade routes, and her kingdom covered to the north trade routes with Mali and also with Sudan and Egypt to the east. A really distinctive feature of her rule were the walls that she built to help protect cities. Some of these walls still survive today. The walls help to mark boundaries, they give protection, and also they're psychologically important. They show that you are ruling and that these places are protected. Walls here, such as around the city of Zaire, are still standing, and they really are testament to her engineering skills and ability and planning. Professor Robert Winston was born into a Jewish Orthodox family. He still practices that tradition today. Professor Robert trained as a doctor and then began to specialise in fertility treatment, in other words, helping people to have babies. Some of his most significant work has been, for example, in looking at genetic defects in embryos. If you've never watched any of Professor Robert's TV shows or listened to any of his radio appearances, I would urge you to. He's a very gifted communicator, and what he's very skillful at doing is taking scientific concepts, particularly in a very sensitive area, which is about babies and childbirth, and helping to demystify it and making it sound humane and compassionate. And I think that's really important for science to be able to communicate clearly its ideas. I was really struck too by this quote from him. "I'm a traditional Jew with an Orthodox background, and it informs much of my approach to science. Of course, I think it's very important that if you have these sorts of backgrounds, you don't impose them on other people as a clinician, of course." And I loved that. He's saying, first of all, that his faith is so important in helping him to carry out his work as a scientist, and it informs him, it guides him, and it leads him. His faith is intertwined with his science. But also, he says, he's not there to push his religious beliefs onto his patients, onto those he is treating. I confess I knew nothing of some of these individuals, and to find out their contributions to the world of science has been really, really interesting. And what I would urge you to do, if you want to explore further the topic of religion and science, then there are countless individuals out there who have been involved in their religious faith and also making great scientific advances. Maybe you will want me to do another video on this topic. If you do, then please you're invited to leave a comment or indeed anything else you might like me to explore. Until then, however you celebrate British Science Week, I wish you well. And as always, enjoy your learning.